Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the meeting of the Sacramento Metropolitan Cable Television Commission. This meeting of the Sacramento Metropolitan Cable Television Commission is being videotaped in its entirety, and it will be broadcast without interruption on Metro Cable 61, the government affairs channel on the Sacramento cable system. Today's meeting is being cablecast live and will be repeated Friday, same channel, 9 a.m. Members of the audience wishing to address the commission should fill out a speaker identification form located at the back table of our secretary. Please just walk up, hand it right here. Please speak into the microphone when addressing the commission and state your name for the record. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Atman Johnson?
Here.
Toby Johnson?
Here.
Holland?
Here.
Roby? Strang?
Here.
Cerna?
Here.
Castanis? Panay?
Here.
Fletcher?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. There is a quorum present. We'll now move to item 1 on the agenda, grantee presentations, and first of all, Jay Thompson from the SECC. Jay, welcome.
Good afternoon. I'm Jay Thompson. I am chair of the Sacramento Educational Cable Consortium. I can't believe how quickly these months fly by. When we last spoke in December, we presented the SECC 5-year plan and outlined for you the current services offered by SECC's educational channels, and if an increase in funding were available, the additional excellent services that would be offered. Even though additional funding has not been immediately forthcoming, SECC has continued to move forward toward the implementation of the plan. Now, every day on television, radio, and in the papers, we see the continued serious funding cutbacks education is facing. We see increasing enrollments, inadequate aging facilities and equipment, and reduced funding. As far as support for students and learning is concerned, we seem to be on a continuing downhill slide. Every day, we hear the question asked, what is the answer? Well, as most people realize, in dealing with such complex issues, there is no one answer. Instead, most complex issues are solved by individuals, groups, small organizations and large organizations, working alone or together in addressing one or more of the various elements of the issues. As far as education in the greater Sacramento area is concerned, educational cable is now playing a much larger and an essential role in addressing some of the issues. Today you are going to hear from 2 SECC members who will share with you the importance of educational cable and how use of SECC services is making a positive difference in addressing educational issues caused by their budgetary crises. First, I'd like to introduce Patsy Haynes. She is Director of Instructional Material Services, Sacramento City Unified School District. Patsy?
Good afternoon. I'm Patsy Haynes, as Jay's mentioned, and I represent Sacramento City Unified School District. And as you know, we've already are talking about $11 million reduction, and from the news I hear today, it might be more. We highly value the use of education cable and Sacramento Education Cable Consortium services. We use it for staff development. Staff development are 3 major staff series right now. The recent new history social science series, Journey Through Time. We have another series, Integrating Language Arts, that's writing series, and Math Today. And another form of staff development is the production of the award-winning series of Teaching Writing in the Classroom. This is a very popular series, and every classroom in Sacramento City Unified School District has this handbook at the elementary level and a tape that goes along with it. And new teachers call constantly to continue this usage. We're working with the SECC in developing this series also for the middle schools, so that the middle school teachers felt that they would like to have this kind of staff development also for their level, and hopefully with support they'll be in completion this summer. Mentioning also is the teleconferencing. Teleconferencing is very popular in our district because it keeps people informed and abreast of the new developments in education. And since there are budget cuts to prevent travel to conferences and things, that's just cut down. There's no constant travel for conferencing. And so with these teleconferences, which are very popular in our district, we use that service. Students use Homework Helpline, and I think that that's another valuable series because if you ever listen to it, the children find that there's somebody that they can call and ask about a question about their homework. And sometimes parents, adults don't know or they're not available. And we found that to be most valuable for the students. There's also this use of cable for electronic field trips. We have, in the traditional times, been able to provide a lot of buses for field trips. Most of our buses are used for taking kids to magnet schools and so on and so forth. And we don't really have a good budget anymore for field trips. And so a lot of the things that are the materials enhance a child and a teacher to help a child to see things that are around that they wouldn't be able to do so if they're not using the bus to go. Many of our services, like SECC takes care of the adoptions. We're getting ready, Region 3 is getting ready for a new kickoff of a new California math framework for the State Department. And hopefully we can get a block schedule in the evening to kick off this new math framework. Facing another crisis that we're wanting to provide, since the classes will be cut, I'm sure when you start cutting staff, you start cutting classes, and I'm speaking mainly at secondary level. Many classes and services will be cut in that area. So Sacramento City Unified School District will be participating in a meeting that's coming up on April the 2nd with some curriculum people from all over, from other districts. We want to get together and share and coordinate high school credit classes by cable. And the plan is right now to offer about 10 classes on channels 21 and 22. So students in every district can take these classes at home or at a learning site on campus where there's no other way that these courses could be offered. So I guess in saying, I just want to say Sacramento Unified School District thanks you for the support that you've offered in the past and encourage you to continue to increase your support, because I guess that I feel that SECC keeps the light on so we can see where we're going for the future, and it's always been dependable, and it's always been supportive, and it provides quality. Thank you.
Would you wait just a moment? Are
Sure.
there any questions from the commission members?
Thanks, Pat.
Thank you for a very fine presentation.
And finally, in a return engagement, representing the Los Rios Community College District Office is Kirk Wicking, Instructional Media Librarian, Sacramento City College. Kirk?
Good afternoon, and thank you for having us back today. I'm just going to speak to a couple of brief points. The item that I'm passing in front of you is a proposed schedule for fall for the Los Rios Community Colleges 1992. The reason I drafted this was to make a point that after 5 years, there's no repeat programming in our schedule anymore unless we have new courses. And in this particular case, I call your attention to English 1B and Psychology 15. Both will be new courses that will be premiering in the fall, and therefore they are intentionally repeated. The second item at the bottom of the page, you'll see a gray shaded area. This is an hour of programming I proposed to SECC that I'd like to increase our programming. And through the combined efforts of SECC and Los Rios, we're able to identify additional programming, non-repeat programming that we can put on the cable, but we're still going to have to look very hard to find the $10 an hour to pay for the playback, so I'm not sure whether or not we're going to be able to successfully implement that. Another item I was here to speak to you about today was just to report briefly. Last time I was here in December, I talked about the fact that we had initiated a pilot project in response to a request from West Sacramento to provide courses by television to their community. In cooperation with Mr. Espasto and the cable company and SECC and Sacramento State University, we were able to put in place a pilot project where we are providing to the residents of West Sacramento our courses by television. This is a pilot that we expect will go, and I'm hoping will go until the end of June, at which point, with the support of SECC, we hope to formalize that agreement and, in fact, be able to continue to extend the reach of our programming to members outside the greater Sacramento area. On a final note, I'd just like to make a point. When we talk about courses by television, I'm very concerned that we don't lose sight of the people we're serving. What this enables us to do is provide quality education to those individuals in our community that are unable to, whether for professional reasons or for personal reasons, attend our colleges on a regular basis. So it's always important that I put that point back out there, because whether we're dealing with the people who have, whether they're taxi cab drivers or security drivers, people who have schedules that will not permit them to attend school on a regular basis, this is a mechanism that we can work with. Whether it's people who have to work with childcare, here's an opportunity for people to study at home. So the point I want to make there certainly is that we are serving a constituency in the community which I don't think would have access otherwise. On that note, I'll answer any questions or leave the next person.
Question?
There's a question over there.
Yes.
What does a $10 playback mean?
What it means, sir, is that we have to pay a fee to put the tapes in the machine so that we can play the tapes back from our head-end operation at California State University. And the fee is it's a per-hour charge that people are paid to put the tapes in the machines, which is currently being done for our 20 hours per week. And what I'm proposing here is to increase another 7 hours per week, which would basically be 27 hours per week.
So it'd be another 70 hours or...
Right, sir. And I could come back with another hour of programming, which would make it 140. This serves as an example that we do have the programming and the support mechanisms there to continue to increase the non-repeat and new programming.
Question over here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If I could just add a little bit to that point. Spencer Freund, who's the media director at California State.
I'm sorry, could you raise the microphone up a little higher?
Still higher. If it doesn't work, I'll bend my knees. Can you hear me now?
Just speak directly to it, I can hear you.
All right. Spencer Freund at California State University, Sacramento, of which they are a member of SECC, over the years has made it possible for SECC to get to the cable head end. And Spencer has provided in-kind service that has been outstanding for our organization. The $10 playback fee simply covers some of his personnel costs for students and others to be on site to operate the equipment. and it's a valid cost, and it is only part of the total cost that he incurs in helping SECC provide programming. Let me close, Orville, by again expressing our appreciation for your and the Commission's past and continued support of the Sacramento Educational Cable Consortium. Thanks to you and all of the members of the consortium, we have made and will continue to make major contributions and advances in the instructional process and learning in the Sacramento area. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Is there any further comment to be made about SECC? We'll move then to the next item, access presentation. And to begin that presentation is Michael Hayward.
Sorry, Jay.
Is that your arthritis I just heard?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Michael Hayward, and I'm chair of the board of Access Sacramento. In a few minutes, you will see a little feature that we have prepared, giving you the highlights of our recent video awards. You'll see that on the TV monitors. But since there's no free lunch, you first have to listen to me for a minute or two. I wanted to take this opportunity to report to you briefly on recent events regarding the management of Access Sacramento. Following the resignation of Randy Van Dalsen as executive director toward the end of last year, we took some temporary measures in order to fill the considerable gap that he left. Lynn Bartlett stepped down from the chair to assume part-time the responsibilities of interim executive director, and I took up once again the duties as chair of the board. Meantime, we instituted a very intensive search for a candidate to succeed Randy Van Dalsen. But when the deadline for applicants came, we considered that the overall response was not satisfactory. At that time, it was also clear to us that serious planning and discussion lay ahead in the coming months. Accordingly, the following arrangements were put in place this past Monday by our board of directors. Lynn Bartlett has resigned from her post as part-time interim executive director and has resumed her place on the board. I want at this time to thank Lynn for stepping into the breach and holding down the fort at a very difficult and critical period. Ron Cooper, whom many of you have known in his capacity as Director of Training and Operations, has assumed the duties of full-time interim executive director and will report to me as chair and ultimately, of course, to the board of directors. It's also our intention to offer a consultancy contract to the Buskey Group, of which Randy Van Dalsen is principal, to advise us in this transitional period. So far as the search for a permanent executive director is concerned, we shall actively continue this process and seek qualified candidates. Our deadline for applicants will be extended. We haven't made up our mind exactly, but most likely it'll be until the middle of April, and everybody who's already applied will be invited to indicate their continued interest. Finally, I wish to assure you that Ron and I and our board hope to continue the open dialogue and good relations that Access Sacramento has enjoyed up to now with both the Commission and its staff. You will not find us wanting in our objective to serve the best interest of the Sacramento community. And if there are no questions, I would like with great pleasure to turn the microphone and this podium over to Ron Cooper.
I have a question about how you're going to manage your budget.
Excuse me, Ms. Collins?
I would have a concern about how you're going to manage your budget, in terms of your overall budget. If you've got someone going in there assuming the full-time now as executive director, and you're also going to put Randy on a consultant's contract, how much of your budget is that going to eat up?
It will not eat up nearly so much as the budgeted position that Ron Cooper has occupied as Director of Training and Operations. We are not contemplating to fill that in a full-time basis, but make adjustments with staff functions. So we're well within the overall budget.
So your budget for both positions, is Randy's consultant contract going to be the same as what he was paid for executive director, or what?
I'm sorry.
How are you going to? You can't hear?
No.
No, our mics don't work very well either. I guess I'm just concerned about the resources. I'm also a little concerned about I don't know. I hate to use the word propriety. I don't know what the personnel or protocol is for a person leaving executive director and then going into a consultant's contract that quickly. If you want to speak to that, well, I would like to know that. That's something that seems strange.
I think it's fairly common practice, actually, to have as a consultant somebody who is left full-time paid employee.
Oh, will you be submitting a budget showing us what those figures are? Are you going to be submitting a budget showing us what those figures are?
Surely.
Okay.
If the budget triggers a 10% change in a line item, in a category, a budget revision to you is required. I have not, this is the first we've heard of this, so we don't know what the totals are.
Can I follow up on that?
Well, I think it's important for us to know. I'm just a little puzzled by it. And
Joe, do you want to answer?
Yes. On the same issue, did you have was there a competitive process here? Was there a request for proposals or a request for qualification that went out, or just a sole source contract?
A request for bids for a contract for advice, consultancy? No.
Yes.
No, there was not.
Do you have a policy, or do we have a policy? Do they have to do that?
We regard the Buskey Group as the outstanding national figure in this.
I think the question raised by Ms. Collins, and the question I'm raising now is a question of public process. Are they required, Richard, to have a...
No, I discussed this briefly in December, Mr. Cerna, the need to implement more administrative controls on the grantees exactly of this type. I see a recommendation forthcoming in June for changes to their operating procedures or bylaws in the area of personnel, would include this, purchasing, travel policies, etc. At this point in time, the grantees operate under agreement which goes back to 1982-83, which effectively leaves, other than strict fiduciary controls, in the hands of the grantee organizations.
What's our responsibility with regard to do we have oversight responsibility out here?
We do. The commission made a decision in 1987 to reduce that oversight in a budget cutting move. I'll be recommending in the June budget, as part of the grantee refunding, some changes to bring a few additional controls to bear. Right now, the primary control is an audit that the grantees do, an outside audit that is then reported and filed with us. And that's the extent to which we take a step into grantee operations. Okay.
Well, it seems to me that if we have oversight responsibility, I think it seems to me that those of us used to working in the public process, and I'm assuming that their role is quasi-public at least, or...
Well, they're nonprofit, fully funded by you as a grantor.
Oh, okay. Well, then it seems to me that there's no doubt in my mind that you're subject to all the public disclosure requirements provided that the city and the county both operate at, which would mean, in fact, they would have to put out a request for proposal, or they would have to, and we do sole source contracting too, but there is a process and a procedure by which that is done. And I guess what you're saying is currently there is none, but there will be one?
There'll be a recommendation to you to impose those as part of the conditions for the grant renewal.
I think that's only correct. Okay.
I think the other thing, separate and apart from this, if we're going to be coming forward with those kind of recommendations, would be the procedure to assure that the grantees are living up to other than just program hours, etc., but that in terms of I don't know how to say this, in terms of of all the other strictures that we have? Like, do we have strictures or do we not in terms of whether their equipment is to be used for for-profit activities? We do, correct?
We have very extensive.
Okay, we have very extensive. Where do people go to file complaints if they think that some of our grantees are using that equipment for for-profit ventures? Who do they go to?
Our office.
Your
This
office.
commission.
So they would file a complaint with your office, and then how is the procedure done from there?
We've only had one experience of testing that procedure right now relative to the Religious Coalition on Channel 20. The process was I verified that there was commercial use of the equipment. In that case, the programming included commercials they were pulling off the satellite. They couldn't remedy the situation quickly. We asked them, where they volunteered after discussion, to pull the channel off the air until they could come up with a control mechanism to correct the problem. So I would deal with it in a standard management administrative way. We have not created any policies that would say how we would
So we don't have any policy for how to deal with that. And I want to take it just one step further. Since we've talked about, and I'm sorry, we're taking a little bit of your time, but since we've talked about coming forward with some of these things perhaps by June, one of the concerns I have is we've also discussed perhaps the nonprofits being able to raise money in a different area and use that to leverage somewhat what they're doing in the broadcast area. Is there a way that we can look at how you can separate those two, that if allegations come in that the nonprofit is using, for instance, the cameras to film things that are really of a for-profit nature, it seems to me we get into a real problem area there, and I just think that that's something we have to think about between now and June also, if we're going to encourage them with one arm to be bringing their own money in, because money's getting tight for everybody, and at the same time there are allegations made about whether their equipment's being used properly or not.
I'd like to work that out, we'll put that together.
Did you get your question answered?
Well, I think if he's bringing it forward, that might take care of some of the concerns, and then if they're going to submit the budget so that we can take a look at
Has your
how that's
question been
impacting.
answered?
I really think it's important that, that we do have a budget oversight, and if people are making all these changes, we ought to be more aware of it, and we ought to have had papers submitted to show the budget work.
We'd like to hear from you, Ron.
May I introduce Ron? Thank you. Ron Cooper, our interim executive director.
Thank you. And it's an honor. I've been with the Law Cable since 1982, so some of you are familiar with it. I'd like to also just clarify, Ms. Carl, that there are very distinct procedures at Access Sacramento for training operations. This has been what I've been doing for 6 years in terms of separation of producer activities and any activities that Access Sacramento that we've kept your prides of as well. Access Sacramento does in program production. It has nothing to do with any kind of commercial production at all. And any and all of those records have always been open and continue to be. Plus, I would be happy to work with Mr. Esposto in terms of delineating those procedures, and I think forthcoming is the way to go. The other thing about I think there's a little bit of confusion, and I understand what you're saying, Mr. Stern, in terms of the RFP process, questioning that. I'm not a part of that decision making. But I think there is some clarification necessary. There is an executive director budgeted salary that you there is a director of training and operations salary that you approved in terms of last year's budget. And what's going on is that I am assuming on an interim basis the executive director, the director of training and operations is not changing. And so therefore there isn't this double money. And as far as the busking group, my understanding in terms of the actual service that's going to be provided is very specific to the search for a full-time executive director. And of course, there are occasions in which I would look to advice, but I intend to do that infrequently as possible to keep those costs down. Because I've been there for 6 years, I think share with you this ceremony. I just have to illustrate Access Sacramento shares those. The morale of the staff and producers at Access Sacramento, despite the lengthy process of search for executive director, remains high. I just wanted to use this opportunity in terms of updating you in activities and what's happening. I also want to amplify what Michael Hayward said in thanking Lynn Parr-Bartlett for her interim services as acting executive director. She had an opportunity, I think, to meet with several of you, hear your mind in terms of Access Sacramento activities. I would also like to invite myself to either call or meet with, at your pleasure, to discuss and to also provide information in terms of activities. I really do think that there's some misunderstandings about what we do and how we do it, and I would really like to clarify that at any opportunity. Also, there have been some changes. We call ourselves Super Sunday Tapes. Mr. Fletcher suggested that he watches our channel on Sunday, and wanted to see programming. So I'm very pleased to announce that each Sunday now we're showing the finalists and the winners in their entirety of our recent third annual Video Awards. So please tune in and you'll see the best of Access Sacramento each Sunday. There have been discussions in terms of Sacramento Cable and working with Sacramento Cable on doing some public service announcements. We look forward to continuing those discussions. The training classes are going well. They are filled. I wish Terry Costanis were here to hear that, since he was so important in facilitating them. We're talking 300 or 400 Sacramento County residents taking classes each semester in television production, where there is a possibility of expanding those class offerings in the future to incorporate more advanced learning situations and to really enhance the creative community here in Sacramento. That would then be reflected in terms of our channels, and I think the other channels too, because we see folks from government, local and state, and also from the educational community taking advantages of these courses and perfecting their skills. There's a packet in front of you. Just briefly, I want to go through it in terms of highlighting some programs coming up. In the program guide, this is the joint effort that Mr. Esposito spearheaded and I think has great value, particularly the Sammy Awards that were just held at the Press Theater for first-time use of our truck in documenting the Sammy Awards, and that'll be an upcoming program. Also, we now have a newsletter going out to each of our producers to update them on activities at Access Sacramento. A couple of articles from the Union and from the Bee about our recent Video Awards. And also, I wanted to publicly acknowledge the sponsors who helped us with all the costs of the Video Awards. That was not reflected anywhere in our budget. This is due to the donations of our sponsors, American River College, California Cable Television Association, Ventino, Powell and DeGiusto, George School of Law, Snyder and Associates, Pickett, Rothholtz and Murphy, Sacramento Cable, and the Sacramento Bee. And with their support, we had what we feel to be a grand event. And before I show you a short highlight tape of the event itself, I also wanted to bring to your attention and extend an invitation to a new program that we're going to start this month called Livewire. And this will be a live half hour, 6 o'clock on Wednesdays, intended to be not a talk show, but an answer show. And we would invite many of you here in this room today to join us by calling Karen Moody, who is our Community Relations Director, and making those arrangements. This is an election year. I'm sure there are opportunities that folks would like to have in terms of talking with their constituencies, but we're looking for other than politicians as well, and invite the public to let us know what they'd like to hear and those speakers in the community who would like to come forth. I would now like to show you a short 3.5-minute clip of the Video Awards ceremony itself, and also it concludes with Channel 10 coverage during the past couple of weeks of Access Sacramento activities. And then I'll take questions. Thank you.
gentlemen, Access Sacramento welcomes you to the 3rd Annual Sacramento Community Video Awards. Tonight, we honor the efforts of Sacramentans who have translated their visions to videotape. And now, to double the evening's pleasure, we have both a master and mistress of ceremonies. Please welcome Susan Hayward and Al Gonzalez. This year, in recognition of the fact that community producers are a unique blend of student, expert, and explorer, the awards competition has been separated into 2 producer types. So each category that receives a prize is divided into community volunteer entries and professional entries.
I really am very, very grateful and thankful for the Access Network, because Access Network really means exactly that, networking with people, and I have met some just wonderful people through the Cable Foundation.
Reading in action is a challenge because there's a lot of people out there that aren't as advantaged as we are. And that's the whole idea of reading in action, is to let people know what programs are out there to help them improve themselves. And that's kind of what Access is all about. It's giving us an opportunity to improve ourselves. Thank you.
Public access TV is also alive and well right here in the capital city. Like Wayne's World, it can be strange, but it also has a serious side.
A century ago, the most common serious diseases.
Preparations are underway for the long-running medical call-in show Health in America. Access Sacramento also offers viewers shows about women, teens, politics. This is nonprofit TV paid for by the city, county, and local cable subscribers. There are no commercials. Most folks in front and behind the camera are volunteers. They simply have to put in time to get their ideas on the air.
Where else can we really do that in today's marketplace but here at Public Access? You can learn how to edit, you can learn how to shoot. You start off small, you start off learning how to produce.
And who knows, maybe one day we'll see the real-life story of Access Sacramento on the silver screen. Carrie Massey, News 10 at 11.
And my hope is that during the interim position as acting executive director that I may lend to the process of continuing our efforts and to have an opportunity to answer any and all of your questions. Do you have any? Great. Thank you.
From up front?
Good luck.
We certainly have compliments up front for access programs, leadership. And we know you're in a little difficult position right now, but it seems that you're handling it in a way that's going to be favorable to all. Thank all of you. This then completes our grantee presentations this afternoon. We're going to move to item number 2. We began a public hearing on customer service regulations in December, and it has been continued to this meeting. Rich, do you want to make a comment before I open the public phase of it? Anything that you'd like to say?
I believe I can make my comments after the public hearing is open.
Very good. I now declare the public hearing open for comments from the audience. We do have a presentation to be made by Kim Rupert, manager of Sacramento Cable. Kim, your turn.
Thank you, Chairman and Commission. I'd like to say that over the last 3 months, it's been a pleasure to work with Rich and you, Chairman, in resolving and reaching agreement today, a signed agreement by our President and staff to the amended regulations, and that it's been actually a joy to work with Rich and his staff, and of course Brent. And I appreciate the leadership that you, Chairman, have given us as a total group in reaching these amended agreements so that we can go on and operate and continue to do what we all intended to do a year or so ago, and that is to give great customer service to our staff and to our constituents, your constituents and our customers. I would like to report that, as I said before, we will be, and we are, and we would be, in 100% compliance with the regulations, and as of today, we are 100% in compliance with all regulations, and that frankly, we're exceeding those regulations by leaps and bounds, but since I have an opportunity later to speak about the progress that we've made, I'll wait until then to tell you about them. But I want to express our thanks to especially Rich and on our side, Cindy Simonson, who have spent countless hours, to say the least, over the last several months to reach this agreement, and that it's a pleasure to see all of my staff, directors, supervisors, and hourly employees are completely trained, and everything is implemented, and they're completely trained to handle these regulations. And of course, our opportunity here is to not only meet but to exceed those regulatory issues. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rucker.
Mr. Chairman.
You're very complimentary, and we accept it in good kind, too.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Not to him, but it bothers me. I've known Brent Blair for many years. It bothers me to hear someone describe that it's been a joy working with. He's a very fine attorney and very tough. It makes me wonder, what did we give up?
We also have the amendments that you passed out.
There are some, if I may, Mr. Chairman, if there are no other comments from the public,
speakers, yeah.
I'd like to close the hearing with my comments.
There are some.
Oh, there are other speakers? Okay.
Doug Austin wishes to make a presentation.
My name is Doug Austin, and I'd like to speak to you very briefly as a consumer advocate and a volunteer programmer on Access Sacramento's radio. And I'm not actually, now that I've read all the things about the customer service here, I may be in the wrong place here, but I wanted to briefly address the issue of limited basic cable rates. As you know, the limited basic is different from the basic cable rate in that it basically gives you only the over-the-air stations and the PEG stations, and that rate has gone from $3 a year when I began subscribing a year and a half ago to $140 a year. I think that that's totally extreme, and that the Cable Commission should do something to keep that particular access available to a vast majority of the population of Sacramento by making it as affordable as possible. We're not talking about any of the
Mr. Chair,
the deluxe systems that they're having, but just access to the PEG system and the over-the-air
We
broadcast.
understand your concern, but I would have to reply that's outside the province of this commission. And therefore, it's not within the realm of the regulations that we're presenting today.
Further, Mr. Chair, excuse me, we have a public hearing open. I've just chatted with Brent. Mr. Austin's comments would be more appropriate either at the public session at the end of the meeting or under our legislative policy decision. His comments are not directly related to our customer service regulations per se, and they need to be dealt with outside of the hearing.
Yeah, but we'd more than welcome you to make the same presentation, or at least, listen and see if you need to say something more at the legislative section. We're going to be discussing legislation that is being proposed that would get us into that field. We're not in it right now.
I apologize for bending your ear at the wrong time, but I misunderstood here.
We'll get to your section pretty soon.
Thank you.
And he is asking to speak under item number 8 so that we will have the opportunity. Thank you. Is there any other address to be made to us on this topic from the audience? Rich?
Mr. Chair, members, I'm very pleased today to bring you the final piece in our continuing episode of evolving customer service regulations. There are a few procedural things to recover to bring this to term. As Kim has said, the signed certificate of acceptance agreement documents are here before us. A couple of issues to address. In December, you gave us authority to continue discussions, I should say, ministerial refinements relative to the substance of the regulations. I'm here to advise you today that there have been ministerial changes in the draft, in the final before you, but nothing of substance which changes the intent of the regulations. In summary, they provide for routine disclosure of rates and charges, a 30-second telephone response time standard, performance requirements for making appointments, outage rebates, adherence to the new FCC standards for technical quality, and lastly, enforcement. The area of enforcement is one that we had not resolved in December. We directed that staff with Brent could get together with Sac Cable and their counsel to evolve the Section 7 and 8 on enforcement and remedies. I'll summarize those briefly. If Brent feels we need to go into more detail to put them on the record, we will. We do need to read into the record one paragraph from this morning to finalize the changes. The concept behind the enforcement strategy I asked Brent to evolve, was one that puts low emphasis on the daily routine things. Those, I believe, at least as regards to you, those I believe we can take care of at the staff level. There was adequate, sufficient mechanisms to do that. Right now, there are less than 5 open complaints processing within our jurisdiction for us. SAP Cable is meeting those. The individual problems will rarely, if ever, come to you for resolution. They have a small penalty attached if they do. What I asked them to reserve was a mechanism wherein, and it evolved now to a concept called conscious violation, a unique one, where if the company does or fails to do something that is clearly articulated in violation of what we've described here, we can move to take significant action. I expect we never will have to, but we have a large hammer when needed. The large hammer is a $50,000 fine following an administrative hearing process, a public hearing on your part, a $50,000 fine. A second occurrence in a 2-year period of a similar violation, a major violation, generates a $100,000 fine, and a third occurrence goes to $250,000 within a 2-year period. I believe that this is, we've demonstrated twice previously that $50,000 fine does get the company's attention. We have built now an enforcement mechanism that I consider entirely viable, very real, and I can recommend it to you very comfortably. That's the key element that I see in the enforcement. If Brent wants to go into more detail in order to put that on the record for you, Brent can decide. Otherwise, I'm happy to recommend to you the regulations with the one paragraph we need to read into the record for your approval.
And that one paragraph is the one that relates to the 24-month period rather than 36.
Well, actually, the language is just a little bit different even than the amendment that was given to you.
So you need to read that.
Yes, I do. It's on, if you turn to page 14 of the regulations, this has to do with repeated violation enhancements, which I've come to call the recidivist provision.
9.05.
9.05. There should be an addition to that language in the 4th line, which reads, violation under that section within any given. After the word section in that line, we would add the words, for substantially the same or similar conduct occurring within any given period. And then the 36 months in the next line would be changed to 24. And then in line 7, we would make similar changes. After the word section and before the word within, we would add the same phrasing, for substantially the same or similar conduct occurring within any given 24-month period. If I could explain these, and I've explained this to Mr. Ruckert, as has unfortunately become the pattern for these discussions. They picked up in their speed as we approached your commission's meeting. So much of this was done in a series of rapid interchanges between Mr. Moorhead and I over the last 10 days, I suppose. And this change, which we've reached really at the last minute, relatively, was given to Rich over the phone, and it kind of got garbled in the transmission. So let me explain the significance of this, and I've assured Mr. Ruckert the language I've just given you was given to Mr. Moorhead and was in the language presented to the corporate officers at the time they executed the certificate. They asked to reduce the 36-month window for the repeated violations to 24, and my concern was that if we get occurrence language in there so that we couldn't face a situation where the enforcement process was slowed or stalled if the occurrences here occur within that 24-month period. So if you have 3 separate conscious violations occurring within the 24 months, even if it takes us 3 or 4 years to prove them, the fines are multiplied and enhanced as specified. So there's something in there for both of us in that respect. That seemed to be an important factor. There were many other things that were discussed that are not there. I think this is really a good provision. As Rich indicated, we started with the concept of focusing on conscious behavior. However, I think if you probably are not interested in studying these things, but this is conscious. It doesn't mean willful. It doesn't mean intentional. It means knowing or conscious. And that means we don't have to prove specific intent here. Merely we have to prove that the company has an appreciation of the nature of the regulation. And then as the regulations provide, either has a conscious policy of noncompliance or a conscious lack of a policy of compliance. Well, we think that the degree to which the company in the last 3 months has focused on these regulations would make it difficult for them to establish that they did not have a conscious appreciation of the existence of these regulations. So I think there's a very meaningful provision. It does give you enhanced sanctions, which we were concerned about because, frankly, many of the things that could be violations here could be highly profitable things for a given franchisee to commit. So we want to make sure that your sanctions went up in a way that they had a meaningful effect. There's one other thing that should be important to you. In years past, the Commission, you may recall, for those of you that were serving on this body at the time of the franchise, we spent a lot of time talking about, under your former Director Smith, the self-perpetuating mechanisms. And while we have dramatically reduced the penalties the Commission would impose for single subscriber violations, we have also preserved, and consciously preserved, because it was discussed and rejected, at least from our side, we preserved the right of individual citizens to use these regulations in small claims court disputes with the company. So these are legislative standards. This is not a contract, and we want you to be clear on that. This is your exercise of police power in regulating cable television here pursuant to your franchise. Now, we have gone, pursuant to your direction, to see if we could get to a point where the company would agree to waive certain challenges that had been asserted toward your regulatory powers. And that's what we've had them sign. The acceptance document that they've signed says basically 3 things. Number 1, they commit to comply with these regulations. Number 2, they waive all defenses of statutory preemption, which means the Cable Act or any legislative action would somehow preempt our ability to enact these regulations, and all defenses of contractual preemption, meaning that somehow because we didn't have these in the franchise document, we're precluded from raising them. So those defenses are gone. They, of course, because you can't waive constitutional rights, we haven't asked them to do that. And they would have constitutional arguments, but I think those are long since by the boards in terms of these regulations. So in that sense, we have preserved that. They in turn have preserved, and they ask you to acknowledge in accepting their acceptance that they have preserved their right to raise those issues as to any future regulations you should enact after this date, or any amendments to these, and we certainly think that seems fair. We're not asking them to waive their defenses as to some future action. Moreover, a great deal of time was devoted to the fact the cable industry feels they're about to make some gains in the U.S. Congress. And so they were concerned that they weren't being deemed to waive some future gain under some future legislative enactment. And basically we agreed to disagree and to fight those battles if and when they should arise. And so both parties, both your commission and the cable company, reserve their rights as to any future enactments that might come from either the federal or state levels. And that's really all the proviso in subpart 2. And the there's one other. There was one other complicated paragraph in the acceptance. There's some language in S12 pending now in the U.S. Senate, which the industry and the franchisee feel would allow them conceivably to have the review, have these regulations reviewed by the FCC if that bill were to pass. And so we basically discussed at great length whether or not these regulations would be subject to that review. What we agreed to do was simply say that nothing that happened by reason of their execution of this document concurring these regulations would deprive them of that review if they were otherwise entitled to it. Long way of saying we agree to disagree, neither side gives up any rights, and we would not be able to keep them from getting review of these regulations if some future law should so provide, by reason of their having executed this certificate of acceptance and concurrence. So that's really where it stands. It's not a contract. However, they have reviewed and approved, and they do concur in these regulations, and we've received the fax signatures of the corporate officials and the original signature of the local official from each of your collective initial franchisee. So we think these regulations do comport with your direction to us in the past. They do give you a significant step up in your enforceability of these regulations for the big violations. And we think that the waiver of defenses gives you a substantial step forward in enforcing any sanctions you should impose. So on balance, we think this is a very, very good move forward, and I would recommend your director's position.
If there's no one else coming forward, no questions, I guess I would move close the public hearing.
Second. It's been moved and second to close the public hearing. Is there any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No? It is carried.
We would recommend, Mr. Chairman, two separate actions. First, to vote to promulgate and enact your regulations, and I think you have a resolution to that effect. Secondly, a separate motion to execute the acknowledgement of the company's concurrence and agreement. It's not a contract, as I've said. It's a certificate. It's a two-liner that says that the Commission accepts and acknowledges receipt of their certificate of acceptance, subject to the proviso of paragraph 2 and the provisions of paragraph 3, which I've just outlined to you, that preserve their rights in the future. So all you're acknowledging is that you understand that they preserve their rights as to future legislation.
Do you want a separate motion?
I think that should be a separate motion. It's not part of the regulations.
I would move then the recommendation of the executive director. I'd move the approval of the amended customer service regulations, and the amendment as read into the record was under 9.05.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? Called for a roll call vote.
Ratland Johnson.
Aye.
Toby Johnson.
Yes.
Collin.
Yes.
Strang.
Aye.
Cerna.
Aye.
Panay.
Aye.
Fletcher.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And then I would move the certificate of acceptance and in our concurrence.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Roll call.
Ratland Johnson.
Aye.
Toby Johnson.
Yes.
Collin.
Yes.
Strang.
Aye.
Cerna.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Fletcher.
Aye. Motion is carried.
And then the chair signs on our behalf.
Yes.
Forms.
Yes.
Okay.
Let's now move then to item number 3.
Legislation and regulatory activities in Washington and at the state have been quite active. We've had several references already this afternoon to Senate Bill 12. It passed out a month or so ago of the Senate on a very favorable margin, one in which, if held, could override a veto. Senate Bill 12 is not a particularly favorable consumer bill, but we were advised by the Washington contacts with the League of Cities and NACO, et cetera, that it was necessary for us to make a good showing of consumer local support behind S12 before the House would consider its bills. S12 is out. Now the House bills are up for consideration. There is a House Bill H.R. 3560 that was drafted by the League of Cities, Conference of Mayors, and the Association of Counties that is a very good consumer bill. Chairman Markey on the House side is doing a markup of his own bill, or another bill called H.R. 1303 that should appear as a compromise bill sometime the next 2 to 3 weeks. Bottom line is we have done our part on the Senate side, recommending that a joint letter be signed by each of you to our respective congressmen in support of re-regulation and re-regulation as it relates to rate and damage, rate control and damages immunities. Those are two areas that we, by policy, have agreed to focus on previously. Secondly, that was relative to federal legislation. The FCC took action in November on a very, very significant issue called video dial tone that has had me researching and studying quite a bit since then. It was a decision by the FCC wherein what was considered to be services protected for cable operators could be provided by telephone companies in a manner outside of the Cable Act and therefore unregulated. Action alerts were issued too from the TOA, which is our League of Cities arm, as well as you see in the staff report, from other sources. Our established legislative policies did not cover that, so I could not act in the interim. Basically, it's asking for a policy wherein we support competition where it is franchised. Previously, our policies have been we support competition where there isn't any. There's another twist to this, and that is that the sequence goes like this. If telcos are allowed into this marketplace, it's likely that through litigation, the cable industry will sue for an even playing field to relieve it of franchise fees. That has impact directly on us and on access activities throughout the country. That put many policymakers in a position of wanting to oppose video dial tone. I recommend at this point, we take no position on it, however, because I saw nothing in any of the discussions that would bring what we so strongly desire, the damages immunity provisions, into place if we were to get into the business of franchising telcos. So I recommend that we take a neutral position and no action on that issue at this time. We'll keep watching it. On the one more piece, as the final day for comments to the FCC on this proposed change is today. This moved very quickly, an interesting twist. I think it shows national policy relative towards regulation. Things are changing rapidly. It is an election year, and we'll see competition moving, I believe, faster than we'll see re-regulation. Watching it. At the state level, AB 821 has been reintroduced this year as AB 2388. This is the consumer bill that staff chair worked on last year. It was vetoed by the governor. Advice from League of Cities is to support the bill, but not actively until there is some word from the governor's office what to change in the bill. Resources are limited. Intensive, extensive lobbying efforts, and a bill that's going to be rejected again isn't advised. The League contacts are attempting to get into the governor's office to see what it is that needs to be changed. This is a bill that was supported by the League, et cetera, as well as the industry, but vetoed by the governor last year. I'd be happy to address any questions relative to our policies, and in this case, a recommendation of no change in policy in regards to regulation, legislation, Washington or state level.
Commission, would you care to hear from members of the audience before it's discussed up front? We will call Doug Austin again to the microphone. This is a topic he did wish to address. Doug?
So is this the proper time to talk about rates then?
Yes.
Okay, well then I've already given you my opinion there. I think that access to the public educational and governmental channels should be as available and affordable to the vast population as possible. And $140 a year has exceeded that rate. And I think even the last year's rate of $70 a year was a little excessive. But I think that the Cable Commission should do everything possible to make the minimum cable accessibility as affordable as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Ron Cooper wishes to address us on the same subject here.
Ron Cooper, and I'm addressing you with a different hat on at the moment. I am also the Far West Regional Chair of the National Federation of Local Cable Programmers and chair of the 9 regional chairs, which allows me to be on the NFLCP National Executive Committee. The NFLCP has taken a position in terms of video dial tone, and in fact, at the January board meeting in Washington, D.C., board members were encouraged to meet with their Congress people. I had the opportunity to meet with the staff of Representative Matsui and Fazio and Representative Lehman and expressed to them our concern regarding video dial tone. Now, I appreciate Mr. Espasto's, we had a chance to talk briefly on the phone. I appreciate Mr. Espasto's recommendation for taking no position because this is such a complicated issue. As he mentions, taking on cable companies and telephone companies is a major feat, no doubt about it. That said, it is the NFLCP's position that we need to be involved in this process and to allow the commercial interests as represented by the telcos and by the cable companies to be the determining factors and influencing legislation is a major, major issue. And to be neutral in this is to be not representing the best interests of each of our communities. I think that his point's well taken, that we have learned a lot here in Sacramento in terms of the cutting edge of legal issues and litigation and on and on and on, and that the franchising fee process perhaps needs to be reevaluated, which the video dial tone measure is an attempt to do, but it is not in stone. What we heard in Washington was that it is an opportunity to send up a flag and see who salutes, and that there is opportunity for input. Therefore, the NFLCP has filed as one of many public service organizations in this regard, and I'll pass around information to you having to do with the NFLCP alert that went out to members nationally, and also just in conclusion, a summary of what the NFLCP introduction was to their legal opinion. Local regulation of television by wire is threatened by the first report and order. Localism must be restored if the video dial tone medium envisioned by the Commission is to serve the public interest. The use of local public property by a video dial tone system for private gain requires fair treatment of the local community's needs and interests, particularly in the form of regulatory benefits such as universal service, access for local programming and information, and consumer rate regulation. The Commission must refocus its primary concern toward protecting consumers and nurturing a true communications democracy. Video dial tone will not provide substantial public benefits unless video dial tone systems are governed by appropriate regulations. The Cable Act defines the type of regulations appropriate for point to multi-point video by wire. These principles are also applicable to video dial tone, insofar as video dial tone would deliver, among other things, television by wire. The central aspects of that regulation are 1. Access for non-commercial programming, 2. Universal service, and 3. Safeguards against monopolistic and anti-competitive actions. Congress's decision to adopt the Cable Act reflects its determination that these public benefits could not be maintained by market forces alone. The proper venue for regulation to implement communications democracy is the locality where a television by wire system is installed and operates. Local governments are better placed than our federal regulators to determine local needs and conditions. Moreover, television by wire implicates numerous issues with which local governments are necessarily concerned, including issues related to the safe and productive use of the public rights of way. Local regulation is also essential to video dial toners to see the kind of wide-ranging experimentation the Commission seeks. The explosive growth of the cable industry since the passage of the Cable Act demonstrates that local regulation by franchising is compatible with a prosperous market for television by wire.
The Commission's proposal is unlikely to produce a system matching the Commission's vision for video dial tone. The proposal does not require universal service, the creation of an advanced broadband network, or even the construction of a system to compete with existing cable systems. Its most likely result is that telephone companies would buy out and operate existing cable systems. Hence, it is essential that current regulatory safeguards not be removed with respect to television by wire, whether provided by telephone companies or cable companies. And I'll pass out this document to you.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
Discussion?
No, I suppose the discussion ought to center on, if there's no one else coming forward, on the recommendations of staff. And I'm going to be supporting the staff recommendations. I share some of what Ron said about the one issue. I also have to tell you that I'm not really wild about regulating rates. I know that's a part that's in here, but I understand when you don't have true competition that maybe that's one of the tools that's needed. I would be far more comfortable with having powers that related to some of the basic issues that goes back to the franchising. When you have things promised on certain tiers to people or at certain rates that are promised for periods of time, I would much rather regulate in that area where promises made are kept in terms of a system that was designed originally. And I think there have been a lot of changes made, and some of those changes I think are detrimental. I think to this operator's credit, some of the changes that have been contemplated since then, some of the steps that have been taken since then are back towards in a different way, which is kind of maybe a mixed signal. But that said, I for one am not really wild about getting into rate regulation. It is a difficult and complicated area, although I sympathize with you entirely, because when the original franchise came forward, that very limited basic rate was going to be much more encompassing in what it offered and at a much cheaper price, and was deliberately bid that way, I think, in the franchise. But I think given the realities of what we've been through, this is probably the best way for us to go at this point.
Any other comment?
In terms of trying to get legislation that would be meaningful to help us while this whole industry matures, cable industry included, I mean, what I meant.
Maybe a comment. I do favor rate regulation. I tend to think we have a monopoly that is uncontrolled on rates, and so I just think somehow to have a little bit of control over the rates would be beneficial.
Thank you. Other comments? Then we'll declare this topic complete and move on to item number 4, grantee funding estimates. Do you want to?
Did we need any action on that to give you any further directions? Pretty much in concert with what we've done before. Okay. Right. And for Mr. Austin's benefit, if he has the staff report, it'll give you the numbers of the legislation, and in fact, we've got some letters in here, I think, that at least in our packet, that indicate the type of letters that'll go out and give you the bill numbers that you'd be interested in.
Item 5, our channel use agreements with our grantees require that we advise them, item 4, good signal, item 4, and that we advise the grantees
counting on your fingers.
Of the estimated allocations for the next fiscal year by May 1st of each year. We won't be meeting before May 1st, so the allocations are before you. There is included, or there, in the consideration of the allocations this year, different than in the past where we have applied essentially routinely a cost of living adjustment each year. I'm recommending that you advise the grantees of the possibility of an allocation reduction in the next year. This is not a decision at this point, but only an advice of an estimate. The reasons are twofold. One, there's a attached letter from Bob Smith, County Exec, requesting expedited repayment of the funds of the debt we owe the county. Right now, we owe the cities and counties close to $1 million, $870,000 and some change. I've seen the reports. I know that you as Board of Supervisors, you as City Council members will be looking at and dealing with significant budget issues between now and September.
I noticed in Bob's letter, though, he says, if your financial circumstances permit. So it's obviously something he wants us to discuss.
The second thing that impacts us is that Brent has advised me, and we'll discuss in more detail, the recommendation to move our protective lawsuit to the active litigation phase. This moves the planned expenditures from later in our cycle to a more current time frame. It has an impact on our cash flow. I only have expenditure data now through January. I would like to come back to you in June with the budget recommendations for next year with final recommendations. At this point, I'm only asking that we advise the grantees that there could be a 10% reduction because as a policy option, my projections are now that we could repay $500,000 of our debt in the next fiscal year with this type of adjustment.
Any comment from up front?
One of the comments I will make up front is I have no problem with informing them of this, and I probably would have no problem in saying probably absolutely there'll be probably no cost of living built in. I can't see, I know that we asked all county employees to take no cost of living last year unless the ones we had a binding labor contract with. The others did not receive a cost of living last year. And we're into tough bargaining again this year. We've got at least a $50 million deficit this year, as Bob's
How much?
$50 million, as Bob's letter indicates. And so I think it would be unrealistic for the grantees to think that there's going to be any increase, even the 4%. Yeah. And so I think that they'd be more realistic to look at some down at either zero or actually going down. I hate asking the grantee. I hate to make a decision now, and I don't think you're asking us to, about escalating the repayment to the county or city, but we're all going to be in bad straits.
Any other comment? Jay Thompson wishes to speak to this topic.
Jay Thompson. I still wear the same white hat as chair of SECC as I did on item number 1. I would like to make a
Sorry, could you speak directly into the microphone?
I would like to make a very brief comment, and that is that Rich mentioned possible new controls and reporting expectations for the grantees. Now, in the past, the Commission and the grantees have worked together in discussing issues that affect grantees and changes in our relationship. If there are to be changes, we would ask that we as grantees be part of the process and not have new sanctions imposed upon us. We would request that the environment of teamwork and partnership continue in the future as it has been in the past. As far as item number 4 is concerned, it goes without saying that everybody knows the very difficult times we are going through as agencies at all levels are faced with reduced revenues and increasing demands for services. All of us in government agencies are faced every day with very difficult decisions. One of those decisions now is being addressed, whether or not to reduce your contribution to SECC educational services by 10%. My request, and I'm assuming this will not take anybody by surprise, is that the cut not be made if there is any possible way to avoid it. Now, in the past years, in my opinion, you have done an excellent job of building an outstanding cable service for Sacramento. You've gone through years of doom and gloom as you have kept alive the idea of an outstanding cable service for the residents of the Sacramento area. Although attacked and once in a while vilified from many sides, you never lost sight of your vision and the goals for the future of cable service. Although not always recognized, the community is indebted to you for what you have achieved, a cable service that is outstanding. In only a few short years, both SECC and Access Sacramento have been recognized as the best in the country. This major achievement did not just happen, but was made to happen, in large part because of your vision and willingness to fight for your beliefs through the most troubled times. Right now, unfortunately, we are in another troubled time and are facing a major decision, whether or not to continue the momentum and educational achievements brought about from your strong support of SECC. SECC was not recognized as the best educational access organization in the country simply because it played tapes back. We received the recognition in large part because of the depth and breadth of our services and the impact that they've had on the educational community. Yes, we do program 2 channels, but that's just the surface. Our members originate many programs in our interactive classrooms and studios. We provide continual in-services in utilization and training. There is school wiring coordination and technical assistance, and the dissemination of materials and resources. What appears on the television set is simply the tip of the iceberg as to the activities that are essential for using cable television as an effective and efficient tool for learning. It's our behind-the-scenes work with hundreds of schools and teachers and administrators is what guarantees the wise, viable, and successful use of instructional cable in the classroom and in the home. As a reminder of our activities, Liz Rhodes, our executive director, along with the SECC staff, have compiled a comprehensive overview or report of our organization and our activities. You should have that in front of you now. By going through it, you will be able again to see the depth and breadth of our organizational services and our educational services. We have all heard the trite phrases, learn to do more with less. Every organization has fat. Well, those simple phrases simply do not apply to SECC. We have, at all times, judiciously used our funds to get the greatest educational return on the dollars invested. We are not a fat organization. Rather, we continue to be lean, but not mean. We have stretched our budget to get out of it the maximum service to the educational community. Now, given this background, what would a 10% cut mean to us? First, it would mean losing the momentum that has been established over the past years. We would be forced to cut back on staff, programming, outreach activities, and original productions, many of the things that have been identified as making us outstanding and responsive to instructional learning needs. As Ann Rudin said yesterday in her State of the City address, although Sacramento has been hit by the recession, the city has not suffered as deeply as other areas of the country and will pull out of the economic downturn this year in good shape. Sacramento is coming out of the recession whole. Because of your past unceasing support, SECC has been able to make major contributions to the educational community. Our success has only been possible because of your willingness to hold tough and make gutsy calls or decisions. If Ann Rudin's short-term forecast for the future is accurate, my request today is that you continue your tradition of long-term vision for educational support through the wise use of cable, hold the line on the budget for next fiscal year, and don't cut your SECC support for our educational activities if it is all possible for you to do.
Thank you, Jay. Would you file a copy of that with Rich, please?
Yes, I will.
Any comments or questions? Thank you. This completes the presentation from the public. Is there any comments you'd like to make for summary?
No, Mr. Chair, just that you approve the estimates advising the grantees of next year's possible allocation.
So moved.
Second.
We
And
need
all
a-
I can say to the I think they're just in the coffee room. We need to get them out, probably. All I can say to the grantees is that our county exec has also asked our county departments to come forth not only with 10% reductions, but our county departments are being asked to come forward with 25, 50%, and 100% reductions from the general fund. So that for some departments, that means if they can't shift their operation onto fees, they are, for all intents and purposes, almost out as a department. So, asking for you to look at your budgets in terms of a 10%, in light of what we're asking our own departments to do, does not seem like a lot to ask you to do some pre-planning. All of us hope it doesn't become necessary to accelerate the payment of the money from the Cable Commission back to the jurisdictions. But with both jurisdictions facing that kind of reality with their own departments, then I think it's only realistic to ask the grantees to at least prepare that kind of a budget.
We have a motion and a second, right, Diane, to adopt a resolution approving estimates for the 1992-93 grantee funding allocations. Is there any further discussion? Clerk, please call the roll.
Grantland Johnson.
Aye.
Toby Johnson. Collin.
Yes.
Strang.
Aye.
Cerna.
Aye.
Panay.
Aye.
Fletcher.
Aye. Item number 5, we can move to now. The first item there is to adopt a resolution revising the June meeting date to the date of June 11 at 9:30 a.m. here in the well, it says in the City Council chamber.
That's correct, Mr. Chair. The City of Sacramento, it's a Thursday, a week after we would normally have met. It's on your calendars already. The City Council moved its Election Day meeting right on top of our scheduled meeting on June 4th. We've moved down a week. Your calendar, your support staff have this on your calendars.
Move.
Second.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Grantland Johnson.
Aye.
Toby Johnson. Collin.
Yes.
Strang.
Aye.
Cerna.
Aye.
Panay.
Aye.
Fletcher.
Aye. The second item under item number 5 is to adopt a resolution ratifying the SCT final order of completion. You wish to make a comment?
Briefly, in April 1990, the Commission delegated to the Executive Director authority to determine that Sacramento Cable Television had met the completion standards for the imposed service area. The final documents were received from Sac Cable at the end of the calendar year last year, 91. I made that determination, advised Sac Cable. I'm still advising you now that they have met the requirements for construction of completion and recommend that you ratify my actions pursuant to the resolution of April of 1990.
Is there a motion?
I'll move. Second.
It has been moved and seconded to ratify the SCT final order of completion. Any discussion? Call the roll.
Grantland Johnson.
Aye.
Toby Johnson. Collin.
Yes.
Strang.
Aye.
Cerna.
Aye.
Panay.
Aye.
Fletcher.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Do you wish to make any comment on the balance of the report?
Yes, briefly. Just to call your attention, some of you have seen me at other of your meetings. Metro Cable 61 is making every effort to add to its lineup. As I mentioned last month or last meeting, SMUD is now on our channel. We're looking to soon bring on or have on.
Pardon?
Very entertaining.
Very entertaining.
We have more meetings like yesterday with a playback schedule. You won't have any time left for anybody on your schedule anyway.
Right. We'll be bringing some policies to you on altered playback schedules.
Good.
In June.
We ran right into our playback time yesterday.
Yes.
So.
Regional Transit, Flood, Human Rights, Fair Housing, Transportation Authority, Environmental Commission are either on or in the process of negotiations. This is based on letters that we sent out about 3 weeks ago first cut. We'll continue to add more as we can. We've held some positions vacant within our budget, which I'm very close, but we have offered to carry meetings from this chamber or from City Council without additional cost to the outside agencies. If we're required to roll the truck, we're doing everything we can to pare costs as much as possible to bring those meetings to the system.
There is one here that I don't see that that is going to play a very important role in how this county is going to look in the future. They get very little coverage because the press rarely attends, and that's the Local Agency Formation Commission. LAFCO deals with issues that vitally affect people's lives in this community, and they do it in almost complete anonymity.
And I might say irresponsibly at times.
And what, Graham?
Irresponsibly at times.
Doing our best to change that.
It is
Yes,
a very
thank you very much.
difficult, it's a very difficult process, and it would seem to me that of all the boards that operate in this community, that particular entity, which is a state-mandated entity, ought to get a lot more exposure to the citizens of this county. They have no direct role in electing the people who are on that board, and yet that particular commission could have tremendous financial ramifications to people in this county, and it's one we don't have on here at all.
Proceed. The initial invitations went to 20 boards that we felt we could assimilate into the schedule fairly easily. That was not meant to be all at once. I wanted to take it in 3 phases so we could stabilize the schedule of both our staff and of the meeting rooms. We'll put LAFCO to the top of the next list.
I think the issues they're going to be dealing with probably within the next year really need exposure.
Other comments? We accept the report and it's filed right now. We're going to move to item number 6, and Tim Ruckert, you have the floor for presentation representing Sacramento Cable.
Thank you again. That was my arm, too. I would like to give you a report on what's been happening over at Sacramento Cable. And to put everything kind of into perspective, today we're going to show you a new business that we're starting, and it starts actually tomorrow, but it'll start Monday. I figured I'd better make sure that the people in this room know it before everybody else. But with the TVs here, everybody will know it. First of all, as a point of reference, before we talk about where we stand and some of the things that we've done, in 1991, on February the 1st, I'd been here about 3 months, actually probably 2, and we were taking around 169,000 calls a month. And our average answer time in those days was 2 minutes. And today, taking this last month of 2/1/92, we have reduced total telephone calls by 50,000 calls a month. So we're down there just around 100,000 calls. Putting that in perspective, too, our growth is actually phenomenal right now. Our average answering time now is 11 seconds. Last month, actually the last 3 days of the month, we bought some $55,000 in advertising in 3 days, and we wrote and installed and hooked 3,800 customers in 3 days. The average hold time for that 3-day period was 20 seconds. We probably field on an average day, or I should say on an average month, 11,000 installs a month. That's a normal month. And we handle some 10 to 11,000 disconnects, moves, transfers, or whatever in a month. In the 2 months of this year, we've built over 20 miles of new construction stubbed up and ready to go for new homes to be built. There are no homes there, but we're there. We will build probably 75 more miles at a cost just less than $30,000 a mile. We've already passed potential homes of 2,200 homes in 2 months. Part of that success is because I have a great staff. I have an outstanding employee base. That's probably the highest productivity base in our MSO. I'd like to introduce to you some new faces to you because they're important in my future and they are important in yours too. Because these people have added to the housing market and they've also are going to be here to help the economy out. Tom Foster is our new Director of Operations. He comes to us from Rochester, New York. He is 14 years with ATC, which is one of the largest MSOs in the United States. 14 years of experience. His wife and children are here and are moving into our community. And Greg High, who has come to us from Denver, Colorado, is heading up all of our MIS and has 11 years in system analyst and has been working with cable data, our billing system, and has made substantial gains in that area with our computer system and our telephonic system, of which Greg, as of yesterday, was approved to spend some $800,000 in a new telephone switch, is totally state-of-the-art, to operate in our system, and is controlling all of the MIS and data processing systems in our company.
Great. Welcome.
Also, has not got his wife here yet, but is doing the old reload trip. We also have Mark Ham here, who has been with Sacramento Cable for several years, but has been promoted, and he is promoted in charge of our new Digital Music Express company, which we will be highlighting for you today and showing you something that I think will be quite exciting. And he's got a lot of years of experience and knows the back history of Sacramento Cable and is very knowledgeable and has been working with this for a long period of time in the test. We've been testing this new product for 2 years. And today we're ready to start to show that new product. And Mark will be heading that up for us. John Johnson, who also heads up all of our service group, he's the guy that makes all those service calls happen the same day that the call comes in or within 24 hours. And he has a large staff, and he's really responsible to make sure that this thing doesn't goof up today. Another thing I'd like to announce is that we are elevating the construction outside of new build. We're also elevating the construction in commercial accounts. We're working diligently to wire all of Arden Way, Arden Mall, all of Sunrise Mall. We have already activated and serve all the Hyatt Regency now, the Senator Hotel. We are working, and hopefully very shortly, to have Wells Fargo, Plaza Park, and 11th and L. And frankly, we're building commercial buildings at an astronomical rate right now, which is a very expensive proposition. And frankly, it's due to this new business that I'll be showing you too, because there's more demand for it, more demand for cable. All of our customers now are installed within 7 days. They're even in the huge blitz of 4,000 new customers in 3 days. All of them are well within a 7-day window. 35% of every install is done the same day the phone calls in. So when a customer calls, by the way, this is not done in any cable company anywhere in the United States, and we said we would be on the cutting edge of this type of thing back, and when I told you in June that we implemented same-day installs, we were doing close to 5 to 10%. Now we're 35% of every call that comes in that wants to be installed. The first thing out of their mouth is, would you like to be installed today? Service is within 24 hours, and frankly, 95, actually it's higher than 95% of all service calls are done the same day the call is received. And then finally, before I explain DMX to you, I would like to thank you, Orville, for spending a lot of time coming out to our office, spending time with me, touring the operation, seeing all the improvements that we've made, and the work that we put into the operation and the sweat. And we welcome anybody else that would like to come to see the operation, because it's quite a facility. And of course, in lieu of all that, we will be looking over the next 24 to 36 months of building a new facility somewhere else in Sacramento that will house, expected to house some 800 employees in the next 5 to 8 years. Now about DMX. I believe there's a pass out that you've received, and our new business is this. There's a box down here, which we don't refer to anymore as a box. It's referred to as a tuner. We are no longer in the just in the cable television business, but now we attach to your stereo system. What we do actually is that we've joined hands with a company, International Cablecasting Technologies, Inc., and they provide us digital CD quality music, commercial-free, 24 hours a day. And that is done by taking a signal, well, actually having lots of CD players by category of music, such as this pass-out shows you, we have 30 channels of music. It has nothing to do with your television set. It is only to do with your stereo. And it ranges from symphony, chamber music, opera, light jazz, several different types of jazz, blues, show tunes, any type of music you can pretty well imagine. Reggae, rock and roll, several levels of rock and roll, Latin ballads, soul music, and it even gets to a category of 1950s, a whole channel dedicated to that music, 1960s, 1970s, and so on.
How about the 30s?
We do that in 1930s. Those were referred to as big band, and we do that too.
What's a big band?
Anyway,
Let's keep it up.
we have each one of these categories at an off-site.
Show, you know the movie we saw? That's all.
They're trying to impress us with how young they are.
Over in the History Museum, I remember.
We have a company in Atlanta that has all of these categories of music, and these categories are randomly selected through multiple CD quality exchangers that are taking this music and just playing one tune right after another in that category. So if you were programming for big band, then you would go out there and you would get all the big band artists and you would put them in that category on these CD players, and you would go ahead and play the music, and it would keep rotating and going through and random accessing all the different music. And it would come over the network commercial free. When we turn this on, you will never hear anyone speak anytime during the broadcast, 24 hours a day, and it is recordable. And the box or tuner box is able to record the CD quality music to a CD recorder when those become available, hopefully this November. And there's lots of other future things that we'll be telling you about this service. But in essence, we have all these CD quality tunes that are being assembled in Atlanta. And they are sent up via satellite, which is the purest signal for audio and for video, and then it's sent down by satellite here to Sacramento. And then it is processed here in Sacramento and put out over what would be referred to as the hyperband in cable. And that is the band between the VHF stations and the UHF stations, and it carries in there, which is the clearest, cleanest area where audio can be transmitted. So when it comes to your home, and you must be a cable customer to be able to get that, you can't get it through other satellite services or through any other means other than, frankly, Sacramento Cable. And then it comes into your stereo tuner, which I don't have here. I don't have a stereo receiver. We're using the unit you have here. But in essence, all you need is a stereo receiver and our tuner box and 2 speakers, and you've got it and you're ready to go. Then, because I don't want to confuse you, we have a remote control unit that operates that, and everybody says, oh my God, another remote control. Well, then we came up with this remote control, which is now able to operate everything on your cable TV and, of course, your stereo unit or your DMX box. And furthermore, this is probably the most exciting thing that our customers will be able to play with. As you can see up here, which you've never seen before, is a screen, like a TV screen. And when you're listening to this music, and we can't have several remote controls playing with the unit. It'll get all messed up. It wouldn't know what to do. But we'll pass around one, and JJ has one here. We'll pass it around, and we'll play different music for you. And then what I would like you to do is to hit title right here, and it says view, and you hit the view button. And on this, we'll print the name of the song you're listening to. And you press more, and it will then print out who the artist is. And then you press more one more time for more information. It'll tell you the name of the album that you can go buy. And it'll also tell you who the album was produced by. In the future, we will more than likely be able to push another button and send you the CD and charge it to your cable bill.
Oh, I want the composer's name, frankly.
Yeah.
Oh, it'll be.
The composer's names, which we can't pronounce.
And then, of course, this tells you a little bit more about the service, and we would like you to take a look at that at your leisure. And so, JJ, with that, let's give them an example of what symphony music sounds like to our customers on DMX. How about to channel 4 now, to light jazz?
Those are good speakers.
Yeah.
Better than mine.
How about Cindy Simonson's favorite, 18, reggae? How about channel 6, big band?
Doesn't sound like much next to a symphony.
How about channel 16, the blues? I never could figure out this next channel. It's called New Age 23.
You either?
When are you going to get the country western?
New age. Just a
Soothing. I'll wait for country western.
Of course, space music.
rock and roll.
Okay, now I'm going to take a remote control. Is there one up there now? How about just pointing it at this converter or this tuner box and go ahead and hit view and tell us what the name of the song is.
Retrieving data.
You have to point it at... That's a very good song. See, I told you this was New Age.
Great song.
Great.
Retrieving data. I gotta order that.
Is it hitting it?
I think I pointed right.
You do have to point it at it. Is there anything printing on there?
Not yet. Oh, here we are. Earth Dances, Part 1.
Okay, and hit more.
That's good.
Impressions by Isla Collin.
That's exactly right. And push more again, and let's see what album it is.
Produced by Joe Cerny.
I believe that, too.
He doesn't have his glasses on, so he's winging this whole thing.
Would you like to give him a help there, Mark?
Here's the record label number.
Back to Earth Dances, Part 1.
We could change the channel.
Okay, now let's go to something else. Let's go to Show Tunes, channel 28. How about turn that up a little, Jade? What do we got there? If we hit title for view.
Title. Composer, Steve Sondheim.
And the name of the album?
I've Got You to Lean On.
And
Angela Lansbury.
And you'll be able to, as you go to the next, if you hit view again, it will have a computerized number that later we will be able to push a buy button, and you can order the album, the CD, whatever you want to buy.
Oh, my God.
And if you'd like to, why don't you just take the remote control and turn on your favorite kind of music and just pass it on down the line and play with it a little bit. I think you'll find it's quite exciting.
So this is an interactive feature to it also?
It is truly not interactive because it is built into the satellite system, and it is carried over the data system. How about turning it up, JJ, just a little bit? And of course, as you look at this, it'll have a mode called cable, and you push that button and you can operate your cable TV, or you can push DMX and it'll operate this tuner box. If you want the volume to go up or the volume to go down, you can push that. If you want to mute it.
Folk rock.
What is the menu button?
The menu for your food?
I don't know. It says menu on this. I don't know.
Well, what it is, we have a thing on the back that'll have the menu of all the music that you have. But there's no real menu. All it is randomly going through and reading all the music that you've got on the data carrier.
Scan is basically just going through all the channels.
That's right. Scan up and down.
What is the arrow? Below by or ID?
Well, you have an arrow for up and down, and you have arrows for a volume up and down and mute. And you can enter in any type of channel you would like to see, or listen to, I should say.
Oh, I've got a meeting.
Latin ballads, 13.
Keep running. Yeah, would you please?
We're very pleased that this service is going to, this service will sell. If they would like to purchase it, they can buy this tuner box for $175, and we will be selling them through other retail outlet stores like Circuit City and places like that. And then there will be a programming charge of $4.95 a month. If the customer cannot afford the box and would like to lease the equipment, we will lease the equipment and the remote for $10.95 a month. By the way, this remote control will only be $1 more than our existing remote control, and we'll be able to do all those features.
Are there maintenance problems with the box? The customer, once he gets it, is it fairly free of trouble?
This is probably the most state-of-the-art equipment made by one of the finest cable manufacturers, Scientific Atlanta. And this box works absolutely perfect. There are no problems in it.
Is this made in the United States or made?
Yes, it is, and Japan.
Huh?
Both.
Oh, both. Yes.
I want to tell you something. I'm one up on you. I've been trying this out at home, and the only fault I find, I become frantic to try a different channel, and then a different channel, because it all comes in so beautifully. It's silky, smooth music, absolute purity of sound, and it works exceptionally well. I have hearing aids, and it comes in perfectly for me. I hear it completely. I hear the full spectrum, and that's because you don't need much volume. It works so well on low volume because it's so clear. And so it is a pleasure to listen to. It really is.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Can I ask a question? Are you people doing anything with regard to microwave to isolated areas? Is there any type of plan to provide cable and music both to farmhouses and that sort of thing, or is that pretty much
No, it's not a lucrative business at this point in time, but as soon as those farms change to condos, we'll be there.
A couple years, Toby. All you need.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to show you DMX, or have you listen to DMX. I even have to change my way of thinking. And we really think that this is going to be an outstanding business for us. We're expecting anywhere from initially 17 to 30% of all of our customers will be buying this. service, and frankly, it shows that the customer seems very excited about it, and it has unbelievable far-reaching capabilities for our business. Not only will very soon, in the near future, will all of our pay-per-view and pay television business be in the same quality of sound, but we have basically an unlimited capability of expansion on this type of service. So we look forward to the future. Tomorrow, we really will be beginning the marketing of this service, and we'll report to you in 90 days on how well we're doing with our new business.
How many speakers can you hook up with this if you wanted them?
As many as your as many as your stereo system can handle. Remember, the only thing that you need is your stereo system. Just as if you with cable TV, you need to have a television set. This only requires you to have a receiver.
Oh, is that right?
That's all you need. Just a receiver, and then you will receive nonstop commercial-free music 24 hours a day, digital quality, and no interruptions, and recordable.
I made an assumption from what you said earlier, though, that you would have to be a cable subscriber.
Yes.
This service really does come in through your cable system.
Right, but since in our franchise area we pass every home, if they don't have cable yet and don't have all they need is a cable drop, they don't have to have television. They can have DMX, but it has to be delivered through cable. And there will be separate prices for people that are not cable customers. They will be higher than the rates I said to you.
Well, thank you, Kim.
Could I ask one more question? Is this the same type of hookup? It's obviously not the same service, but is it the same type of hookup that you use to deliver the FM that people order?
No.
How does it differ from the FM service that people request?
Well, actually, the FM service is created by an FM splitter, a little $2 item that was on the back that we could place on the back of the TV that would run off of the cable, go over and attach to your stereo system. And all that really did is utilize the aluminum cable, which acted as an antenna that was running throughout the streets. It acted as an antenna, and we were receiving signals from Sacramento, from San Francisco, from all over, and those signals were received, and it was just a way of processing it as an antenna. It would be like having an antenna like we do on the first 28 channels. Our cable plant was acting as an antenna for FM customers. And then we took that and we split it off with an FM splitter and ran it to your stereo system. This has no commercial FM or any type of signal quality.
I was just thinking mechanically, does it involve the same kind of process?
Concept is technically the same.
So you'd have to use a splitter, and you'd have to go over to your stereo with it?
Yes, we would split, and you'll have one cable drop going in, the actual drop will go into the box, and then also we have your FM wires that attach to your receiver. So your home stereo receiver runs through it, so the data transmits to it. You're looking like I'm confusing you. Yes, it does transmit over cable.
But I'm just thinking if it's the same thing. I'm only relating it to the experience of people trying to get it installed, and the ease or difficulty of getting it installed that they've had with trying to get FM installed as one of the adjunct services under the franchise. And what brought it to mind was the problem of the one station from Nevada City that evidently here in town it's been impossible for people to get that station because of a new station that went online. Does that mean you're having trouble getting their signal?
No, we do not broadcast any more FM services. They are no longer provided on the system. That is gone. This is taking the place of the FM service. There are no FM service areas available any longer. It is all taken up. All that bandwidth is taken up by the DMX service.
Did we not have in this jurisdiction, in the franchise, when you went through the franchising, that the FM services were going to be provided? Was not KXPR, was that just something that people could subscribe to and it was never a part of it?
The FM service broadcast was not specified in the franchise. The FM access services were, and those continue to be carried.
So the FM access will be carried.
That's correct.
Does that particular station in Nevada City fall under that or no?
No. FM access is KXPR cable. That was
Okay, so
specified.
it's just the cable access.
That's correct.
Okay.
Right. Actually, that was every cable system has that ability, but when that bandwidth is available if they put this type of service on their system, it would take up all of that FM bandwidth. Any cable system can provide FM carriage only because it's part of the network itself. But once that width where it's transmitted or through the cable is transmitted is taken up by something else, whether it's a data carrier or whether it is DMX service, then you can't put two things in the same area. So the answer is that all the FM services of local and distant, including Nevada City, are no longer carried on cable. But DMX will take its place.
I won't make an editorial comment, but
And
I'm glad that we're putting so much of our resources as a nation into lulling each other rather than stimulating each other, I suppose, is the only comment I want to make.
How many connections now and how many a year ago?
We are at 200, just at around 208,000 customers.
Fantastic.
And a year ago, we were at 198,000 customers.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's great.
Well, we had a tough year. We grew very fast in the first quarter, and when the recession hit and the worry of losing jobs were in place, people held back. So we didn't grow as quickly as we'd like. We're going to grow by 18,000 customers this year, net.
Why?
Because everybody's buying cable and it's growing quickly, and there's more needs now for it, such as digital music.
Okay, great.
But our budget is 18,000 growth this year.
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you, too.
An excellent demonstration. We move now to item number 7, election of chairperson and vice chairman for the ensuing term. The nominations are now open for chairperson.
I had heard that Mr. Fletcher was going to continue, and if that's correct, I would nominate Orville Fletcher.
Second. Move seconded that Fletcher be elected as chairman for the ensuing term. Are there further nominations?
I move nominations be closed.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that the nominations be closed. Those in favor of closing, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those who vote for Fletcher, say aye.
Aye. Vote yes, Fletcher.
Aye.
Yeah, we need.
Opposed? Fletcher is declared to be chairman of the Cable Commission for the ensuing term. We are now opening the nominations for vice chairman for the ensuing term.
Who was last year's vice chair?
Terry.
Castanis, so it's county.
Well, I'm nominating Ida Collins.
Second.
Is Orville going to be here every meeting?
Yes.
I will accept the nomination.
Who is the nominee?
Ida Collins.
Oh. Is there any other nominee?
Welcome,
Move to close.
Second. Been moved and seconded to close nominations for vice chairman. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's carried. Those who are in favor of Isla Collin as vice chairman for the ensuing term say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Isla, congratulations. You are a vice chairman, and that means that you bring me coffee each time the meeting opens, and you take notes.
More than happy to do that as long as you're here, as long as you too. I do want to bring up one issue in that regard. In terms of the, just in terms of some background communication that we did receive from Orville. And I would wonder if we could place on a future agenda an issue of some compensation for the chair. I think that needs to be an item on the agenda and an item that we can deal with. I think that Orville lives a great distance from the Metropolitan Center. He is. Are you still serving on Galt City Council? As a Galt City Council person, but that I think it's extremely difficult for him to put in the amount of time he's putting in and the amount of traveling back and forth. And if we expect him to continue that same level of involvement, and I've really welcomed it. It has been a big help to have a chairman who will be that involved. Then I would like to see us discuss the issue of more adequately compensating the chair. I have no idea, since the Board of Supervisors does not receive compensation for these meetings, I can't even tell you what the compensation per meeting is. I know it's in the budget, and I know we act on it, and I know, but we don't.
We currently reimburse the Board of Supervisors $120 for each meeting that
yeah, you
that you
probably
attend.
reimburse it to the general fund or something.
That's correct.
Because,
and city council members are paid at that rate.
Yeah, but I think given the amount of time, and Orville never gets paid for any of all the extra meetings he has to come in for, the staff, et cetera. So, one of the things I want to look at and have placed on the agenda is what we can do about adequate compensation for the chair.
Yeah, I think that's appropriate, and as soon as possible, we should probably take this issue up.
Our next meeting is June 11th. That is our annual budget review. It would be very appropriate at that time.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your electing me most of the time. I have enjoyed it. I do enjoy the contacts with company and the representatives and with members of the commission, the grantees, general public. I find it stimulating. It is something that I am glad to continue to do on behalf of all of us. Now we come to item number 8, public opportunity to discuss matters not on the agenda. I have one who says he wishes to speak, Doug Austin.
He's going to make sure he's got all these bases
Doug,
covered.
the next 3 minutes are yours.
Thank you. The issue here is the one that Ms. Collin brought up, is KVMR's broadcasting on cable. Apparently it's a moot point here, and I'm not sure that there is any action that you can take, but it should be pointed out that for the last several years, cable has been carrying community radio. That's not just KVMR, but that's KDVS and Access Radio. These are very democratic institutions that involve public input in the most basic grassroots level possible, and now KVMR and KDVS have been dropped completely from this system, and I am here today representing a lot of people from KVMR who would live down here in Sacramento. It is really a community radio station for Sacramento, Marysville, Davis, Elk Grove, the entire Northern California area here, and cable was providing access to that for a lot of people. And now it's been cut off at the very same time that a new radio station was authorized and is blocking the signal. So that a programming source that gave us everything that DMX is going to give us has been cut off. And I think it would be great if the Cable Commission were to be able to at least recommend to Sacramento Cable that they continue to broadcast KVMR and KDVS along with Access Radio and the KXPR cable signal. So that's my request to you anyway. It's a terrible loss for us here in Sacramento to lose something like KVMR. So thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Is there any other
I have no shame. I really wish the cable company could provide some of that signal. I wish they had the capacity somehow to do it, because the signal has been blocked, and I understand from constituents that over 700 of the subscribers to that station are here in Sacramento and have now been, effectively blocked, both by cable's action and by the action of, I suppose the FCC is the one who gave the license for the other station to operate. With all of our technology, it would have been interesting if we could have continued to have all the alternative radio. I'm sorry that, we don't have any real power in that area, but it certainly is an alternative to canned music.
Ron?
Oh, yeah. What else?
Thank you. Ron Cooper with Access Sacramento. I wanted to clarify one thing and also to express on behalf of Access Sacramento and more than 100 radio producers and programmers our thanks to Sacramento Cable. And to clarify that, especially Mr. Hammond, I guess he's left, they have been very cooperative in assuring Access Sacramento and the radio programmers on KCBL that they'll be continued in being heard both on the digital service and for a modest fee for initial hookup and no further monthly fee, as per the regular policies have been in the past. And that includes the second frequency for KXPR and also AudioVision, the reading service for the blind that's carried on the 89.9. So we wanted to express our thanks and also to clarify that we do have local, homegrown. We'll all miss KVMR, and if there was a way of continuing, that'd be great. But KCBL is homegrown too, and we thank them for that.
Thank you, Ron. This concludes the item number 8, public opportunity. The Sacramento Metropolitan Cable Commission shall now recess to closed session to confer with and receive advice from its legal counsel regarding County of Sacramento et al. Versus Protective National Insurance Company of Omaha et al. Sacramento Superior Court number 348258 pursuant to California Government Code section 54956.9A. End of the public session.
It was written by Brent Boyer.